Welcome to Resilience and Resolve with Lance Drury.
Welcome to Resilience and Resolve with attorney Lance Drury. For more than 30 years, Lance has stood up for individuals and businesses against the IRS. Now this podcast goes beyond tax law to share what it takes to build and lead a successful practice. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about growth. Every lawyer wants their firm to grow, but scaling without losing control of your practice, your people, or yourself is a real challenge. This is Scaling a Law Firm Without Losing Your Sanity. Lance Drury, sir. Welcome back.
How are you, Evan? Great
I'm
to be with you again.
I'm good now. Got my man here. Listen, Lance, you've built a law firm from solo practice to team across multiple states, just opening up a new spot in Houston. What did scaling look like in the early days?
Well, there wasn't much scaling in the early days. I started out in private practice after my public defender days as just a small town general practitioner, did everything. One night I'm late in the office. I hear this guy. I saw him on the internet and he was offering these books for tax resolution. So I bought the books. Then he had a seminar in Tampa. I went to that, and then I joined his group in Colorado. And so in the early days, the biggest thing that I did first was he had a territory, but I had rural Missouri. I was driving to Columbia, Missouri on a Saturday morning early. That's a 2.5 to 3 hour drive to see 4 to 6 people. Now, my mother lived up there, so it was great because I was able to go see and talk to her and spend the night with her. But, I would bring these cases back on a Saturday, and I started doing more and more and more. And finally, one day in the office, I said, we're going into St. Louis in 30 days, and I'm going on the radio, and that's the best move I ever made. And it's sort of gone, it's kind of built from there. You just kind of learn because, I'm not a natural entrepreneur. That's not my training. I have done a lot of marketing classes now and things like that. But in the early days, there really wasn't a whole lot of scaling, but boy, have times changed.
Well, many lawyers want to grow, but not all growth is good growth. How do you know when it's the right time to expand?
Well, I don't know that there's any right time that you know for sure. I think you've got to go out on a limb. You've got to take calculated risk, and it's changed. I have to tell you, my form of scaling now is vastly different. We are not going to do the brick and mortars anymore. The Houston office is going to be a virtual office. The phone calls are going to roll over to the San Antonio office. We don't expect as much revenue as in a brick and mortar, but we won't have the overhead. We're going to have very little overhead, a lot less radio. We're starting to get involved in social media. I've got a guy now. We're doing a dry run tomorrow. They're going to see how the lighting and everything looks. But they promise you 1 million views within a year, or they're going to refund all your money. In fact, their average client generates 15.5 million views in the first 90 days.
Wow.
And if that happens, I'm going to have to expand the office threefold.
What are the biggest surprises for you when you went from managing cases to maybe managing more people?
That's probably the least aspect of the job that I enjoy is, monitoring employees and I've had to get rid of people. And you know what, Evan, it's not just the young people that don't want to work anymore. I hired a 60-year-old and a 65-year-old, and they were basically zeros. So you can't put it all on this younger generation, but things are certainly different. I mean, I have attorneys in the 30s. I do have one guy. He works a lot, 60-plus hours a week, and I worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week when I was younger. So it's a little hard for me to understand that these attorneys just want to work 40 hours a week. Part of that's generational, but we have the best set of practitioners now than we've ever had. And here's another mistake that I made, Evan, and I've corrected it. I used to think in the beginning, well, I'll just hire enrolled agents. Enrolled agents are federally licensed to practice before the IRS. They have to take a test and have to pass the test in order to do that. Accountants and attorneys can automatically practice before the IRS. So I thought, I'm going to hire enrolled agents. They'll know just as much, if not more, than an attorney, and they won't want as much money. Well, I was wrong about that. They don't have the negotiation skills. They don't have the argumentation skills. They don't represent their clients zealously like attorneys are trained to do. So now all I will hire, and I'm sure there's very good enrolled agents out there. I just never had much success with any one of those. So I'm going to stick with attorneys from here on out.
A lot of lawyers hesitate to hand off work when they build everything for themselves. How do you learn to trust others with client matters?
That's one thing I've never had a problem with. Girls will tell you one of my strengths is delegation. I tell them I should not be doing anything in this office that somebody else can do as well as me. I need to go out there and work on the top dollar cases, bring those cases in, monitor those cases. But if somebody can do something as good as me, then I shouldn't be doing it. That's a waste of my time.
What mistakes can lawyers make when they try to scale too quickly?
Well, obviously, if they try to scale too quickly, they may not have enough clients per attorney, and then you've got all of this excess time on their hands. So you do want to watch that. And I have to tell you, I got to tell you something, and this wasn't planned, but I have an office in St. Genevieve, which is just an hour south of St. Louis. That's the primary administrative office now. I'm the only licensed attorney here. Max will be licensed after the first of the year. But I went into Nashville. I wanted to grow the business, and so I had my media guy look into Kansas City, Indianapolis, Nashville. And he said, well, radio's going to be more expensive in Nashville, but there's more money in Nashville. We get a lot of high-dollar cases there. But here's the thing. We still are not making a whole lot of money in Nashville. We have 4 attorneys there now. But, I pay $7,000 a month for rent. So by the time you pay for parking for your employees, utilities, it's over $100,000 a year. Nashville is just extremely expensive. But here's the good thing. Nobody wants to work in St. Louis. I've had a hard time. In fact, 2 of the people that I hired lived in St. Genevieve. One had never had any experience before. The other was an ex-IRS revenue officer. So I lucked out there. But the thing is, you can't get anybody here. So we could not handle the volume that we have in Missouri. We still do 75% of the practice is in Missouri because we're fairly new in Texas.
Wow.
But the good thing is people want to go to Nashville. It is the place to be in the Midwest now. So here's what happens. They get all the excess. If they weren't there to handle, and probably 2/3 of their cases, there are Missouri cases, I wouldn't have been able to grow this business. I wouldn't be able to handle the number of people in Missouri that I have. And in this day and age, a lot of things can be handled that way because of the technology and that. And so it's worked out well to have that Nashville office to take care of the Missouri cases.
How important is financial planning when you're growing a firm, Lance?
Oh, it's extremely important. We've been very successful, but, we've had our down periods. After the COVID, starting in April the 1st, they didn't institute any levies. And so it finally caught up with this in about June, and it didn't pick back up till November. So we lost money during all those months. But what was worse was 2022. That was the worst year we've had because when the IRS came back, they had over 5 million tax returns sitting outside their facility waiting to be processed. Well, then that number jumped to over 21 million unprocessed tax returns.
My God.
Well, they took about half the workforce from the automated collection system to have those returns processed. And so then levy letters didn't go out. And when they don't threaten to levy you, when they don't threaten to wipe out your bank account, take 90% of your take-home pay, that's when people don't call. So 2022 was the worst. But Evan, I think I'm doing okay because we had a record revenue month in June this year, and then we broke the record in August. And why is that? Because historically, the summer months are slow because people don't worry about their problems during the summer. They want to go out and have fun in the sun. So they say, oh, I'll put it off till the fall. Well, the levy letters were going out left and right. And like I said earlier, that's when people call you. And that's what generated those record revenue months.
Wow. What tech tools or systems have made a difference in keeping your practice running smoothly?
Well, we have my case so that anybody can go in. It's particularly helpful because all my legal assistants are on flex time. They work 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. And so we have a centralized system. So if somebody's not there, we can go in, we can monitor the cases. Client calls, they can go in and tell the client exactly what's going on, exactly the status of the case. We also have something called tax help software, which is the first thing we do. We can go into the IRS systems through tax help software, go all the way back to 1990, find out what's going on with their case. And we want to do that because we don't want to call the IRS up. Because, for example, if there's unfiled returns, the IRS will give us unreasonable deadlines, unreasonable demands. And so when we go into their systems, they don't even know that we're in there. And then we can confirm what they told us in the initial consult. Because, half the time people know exactly what their problem is, but the other half, they know some of it, but they don't know all of it because this is so confusing, so complicated to the average individual that they can't possibly try to do this on their own. I've just seen people make their cases so much worse by talking to the IRS directly rather than hiring a tax professional.
For lawyers listening who are just starting out to hire, what's the most important first step in that hiring process?
Well, that's not one of my strengths probably, but I tell you what I've been doing and what I'm going to do in the future. I have a headhunter, and he has gotten me 3 people. I only had to pay for 2 because one was a brother to the one I hired, who is excellent. They're both in San Antonio, and I have another one in Orlando, Florida, and I can tell you, I could advertise in Nashville, St. Louis all day long and not come up with the quality of the people that I got there. They both had 5 years experience. The other one was just out of law school. And for what they were asking for a starting salary was not out of line, particularly given the experience they had. Now, those headhunters are expensive. But when you get somebody that good, think about the cost of hiring somebody, training them, and then you got to let them go after a year. So, those costs are prohibitive. And so, when I get ready to hire again, I'm going back to this same headhunter to get me good people because it's just worth it in the long run.
Awesome stuff, Lance. Looking back, what's one piece of advice you'd give yourself before scaling your practice?
I think I would have been more aggressive. I think I spent too many years not taking those risks. I think I would tell myself, you got to look into it, but you've got to take these risks. And like I said, we have changed our strategy for scaling. These are the things you learn over the years. And so we're going to hire attorneys exclusively. We're going to have virtual office because our profit margins will be higher. We're still going to help a lot of people. And guess what? My attorneys in San Antonio, if we got a high dollar client in Houston, I'm going to fly them over there, or they're going to drive 3 hours to meet those clients in the Houston office. So we're still going to have a presence, physical presence in Houston as well. It just won't be as extensive as it will be in the brick and mortar places. And so that's the direction we're headed in the future. And then guess what, Evan? Miami looms. Los Angeles looms. So we're going to see.
You try to get to Miami Beach, ain't you, Lance? What you try to do? You try to get on the beach and practice.
I'm going to be the National Tax Relief CEO, Evan. That's the goal. I'm the liberation architect. I'm the guy who's saving Fay Ray from the clutches of King Kong. And I want to help as many people as possible because just look at me, Evan. I'm in the prime of my life. I got to keep growing the business.
Lance, this is a hostile takeover. You trying to take over the United States of America. You trying to have your face in every state. I see the plan now. It's coming to fruition.
I have no response to that. That doesn't happen too often.
Lance, I appreciate the time, sir.
It's always a great pleasure, Evan, to talk to you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Resilience and Resolve with the Lance Drury. For more resources or to connect with Lance, visit lancedrurylaw.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review. Share this as well with people that might find it helpful. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.